All right, here we are, episode 15, and we are excited to be joining you. Somebody take over.
What? What are you gonna do?
Forgot the microphone.
Him and his new camera. I mean, he's had more issues with this thing than.
I'm trying to learn. I can't figure it all out. There's
I
a
think
lot
it's
of buttons
because
and there's a lot of things happening.
It's because Brittany talked bad about it last episode.
jinxed
That's why it didn't work.
She jinxed it.
It decided to not work.
She
for us.
jinxed it.
I speak nothing but the truth.
The camera was protesting.
You speak nothing but the truth. Go ahead, Brittany. Why don't you drop some truth bombs on us?
Truth bomb number 1. I am Jewish. I have Jewish family members in my bloodline. Abram and Andrew say that I'm not Jewish because I do not practice Judaism. Judaism, Jewish.
I did not say that. Jewish
Okay.
is a nationality.
Yes, exactly. So I have.
But I don't know if
Jewish-
you are.
Yes, I am.
Cool.
Truth bomb.
All right. So listen, we're excited. Sorry to
Ignore the first minute.
Yeah,
of this
sorry we
podcast.
started off terribly. Good gravy.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
it doesn't, reflect on the rest of the podcast today. But we are excited. We're on episode 15. We made it all the way to 15. Some say we didn't make it we wouldn't have made number 2, but we made
4.
it.
It was 4.
For what?
Episode 4. They didn't think we could make it episode 4.
We made it though.
I know. But they didn't
We're
think
way
we
past
could.
4. We're on 15.
I know.
We're exactly 11 episodes past 4. For that math. Truth bomb.
Crazy week this week. How's your week been?
I didn't work this week.
Oh, that's awesome. But I feel like you were busy. I feel like you stayed busy. I feel like every time I heard something from you, you were busy.
Well, it was a eventful week.
Cars.
To say the least. I had
Oh,
car.
yeah.
It wasn't really car trouble. Between both, I have a work van and a car, and between the two, 2 of my days this week were occupied by maintenance. So,
Preventive maintenance, hopefully.
well, there was a recall in my van. It says absolutely do not drive if you hear a noise.
Oh, my
and I was driving on Thursday last week and I heard a noise.
News
But I'm all the way
4
up
hours
in
away.
Cleveland. Keep that in mind. 4 hours away. So I was a little freaked out.
There was one time where I started the route in Cleveland, very beginning of the day, and air conditioning went out.
I think you told me that.
It was like 110 degrees outside, so I went to the mechanic and literally spent half the day there.
Which I will say up in Cleveland, there's a mechanic on every corner.
Yeah, there is. Oh, yeah, there is.
Because their gas stations have.
Yeah,
They don't do that. For some reason, it's not like that here.
it's weird.
Wait, what happened?
But I
Like
was
gas
there
stations
for,
have like little tire shops
yeah,
or like
like
mechanics
Oh,
next to
well,
them.
that's actually
built
genius.
It is really, it is.
Well, they used to do that like
Convenient.
forever ago.
So but it was, I went there, I spent 6 hours in that place, and then I was 6 hours behind my schedule. It was the worst day of my life. I didn't get done, it was dark, and in Cleveland, you don't want to be out when it's dark. For obvious reasons.
That's true. But then I had car trouble this week too. That was interesting.
I noticed you guys have got these new bracelets on. I want you to explain some of those bracelets.
It's the coolest
All right.
bracelet.
They look
I
like
can't see them.
WWJD bracelets that we used to have back in 1999.
Well,
I can't see it
does
on
say
do you think they can see it on the thing?
WWJD.
Do you think they can see it on the camera?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
definitely.
that's a 4K Ultra HD one.
Don't talk about it again. It might shut down.
All right, so
The backup
Andrew
camera
got
today,
me
though, just in
these
case.
awesome bracelets for my birthday, and it's WWJD, which stands for What Would Jesus Do? And then on the flip side, you flip it over, and it says HWLF, and that means He would love first.
Explain that. What?
Okay, like
So
when
it's
you're
an
in a
answer to
situation.
WWJD.
Yes,
Answer to the question. What would Jesus do? He would love first.
Can you read it? And Brittany's got it on backwards because you want people to be able to read it.
Well, you
Brittany's got it
told
on
me
upside
that.
down.
Now, what is this like? Who came up with this? What's the backstory? Because I have some biblical problems with it, but we'll discuss that later, I
It's
guess.
just a cool bracelet, I thought.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
It's-
I don't know.
it's
You just
stretchy,
got it
it's
to me
like elastic,
for
it's kinda nice.
for a gift. So I
If
was
you were
like,
to look
I'll
at
wear it.
Jesus' ministry, would he love first?
No, he would tell him. Then he'd love him.
Woo! Does he
Maybe.
ever stop
See,
loving?
we got issues with this, but that's okay.
There are some little. You could be very picky with it if you wanted to be, because he was,
Stop
you know,
loving.
he was pretty quick when to go back to the Pharisees, even though he loved the Pharisees.
What about that song like
He was very quick to tell them exactly how he thought. Usually in a
You
question.
know, I would just like to point out, if you're watching online this episode, I am the only one not on my cellular device.
And this is not sponsored by HWLF. He would love first, but If you want to sponsor us, go ahead and call us, and I'll change my tune on what it means. But I just have my podcast notes of things to talk about today on my phone.
Let's be honest. If Brittany were on her phone, she would be looking at social media.
Yeah. Pretty good point. But I'm excited about today. We have a jam-packed episode. Last episode we had some technical difficulties, but we were talking about who knows what so long that we didn't even get a chance to talk about one of the things I want to talk about last week, which was VBS. So today we're going to be talking about VBS. Today we're going to be talking about Bubba Wallace and the NASCAR situation that they went through this week. We're also going to talk about this coronavirus and things I hate about it. We're also going to talk about things that we've been doing as a church here lately and things that the youth are going to be doing, because a lot of churches are becoming really slow to get that church back up and going. And we need to get those gears grinding and get back in the groove of church. And so we're going to talk about all that stuff today. So let's get started. We started back with regular services on Sunday, which means we're back to Sunday school, we're back to our morning service, we're back to our evening service, we're back to Wednesday night services. And so we're firing on all cylinder as a church. Now, first question, why is that? Why are we doing it that way? Why aren't we waiting like everybody else? I'm going to tell you why. Number one, our governor here in Kentucky, Andy Beshear, said, look, you guys can have 50% capacity. And so we are able to do one service for that reason. Number two, is that your phone? Did your phone just ring?
Yes, it did. It was Brittany's.
It's so interesting about the phone situation. It's probably your dad too. He always seems to call. Hey, Dave. So that's number one. Number two, here's the reality. Sunday nights for Trinity, which is where I'm the pastor of, these guys are staff members.
In case I didn't figure that out by 15 episodes before, but go ahead.
In case there's first-time listeners,
That's
come
true.
on now.
Welcome if you're first.
If you're a first-time listener, my name's David Crozier. I'm the pastor. But our Sunday night and our Wednesday nights are definitely a lot lower than our Sunday morning.
But way before this.
Yeah, way before this happened. Our Sunday night and Wednesday nights have not been affected whatsoever as far as capacity and how many people. We actually would encourage some of the older people, if you feel uncomfortable being with a bigger crowd in the morning services, to come back to the Sunday night services, our Wednesday night services, because we don't have very many people.
Yeah,
it's easy to spread out. Mm-hmm. But we're getting back in that groove of things because I want people to get back in the church. You cannot be the church, right, unless part of that is going to church, right? Part of being the church is actually attending church, is actually coming together with other fellow believers, like-minded believers. And we're going to be talking about this today because my sermon on Ephesians this Sunday, we're talking about being built to serve, but my sermon on Sunday is on Ephesians chapter 4. And part of what it says there is, the reason that we have apostles and teachers and evangelists and pastors and all these different things is to equip the saints to do the work of God and to go out there and build the body of Jesus Christ. And that's what the church is for, is so we could get together and equip each other so we can all go out there and do the works of God. And we have to be able to do that. And the only way we can do that is be back in church. And so it's interesting to me because a lot of these churches that are slow to get back into the groove of their church, they're just now starting Sunday morning. They still refuse to do Sunday school. They still refuse to do Sunday night. They still refuse to do Wednesday night. They're doing it online.
They're not thinking about youth.
Kids. They're not even thinking about kids or the youth. It's not even crossed their mind. And it breaks my heart because guess what? If you look at it, I know for sure the majority of these churches can go back to Sunday night and Wednesday night.
Oh, probably. Especially after the 50%.
Yes, I guarantee it. I know.
Because 50%.
Because I know most of you guys were barely having 10 people at your Sunday night, Wednesday night. So go ahead and have church.
Ouch.
It's just, am I wrong about this?
No, you're not. And
Yeah.
I think the reason that people are not going ahead and opening and just pushing forward is because they didn't do it before. And now they have an actual reason to why they don't have to.
They're justifying.
They're just
Yes,
justifying.
they're justifying.
Well,
Which I said that's from the beginning. They're just looking for ways to not have to do church, not have to ways to preach, not have to,
And here's the thing, we're blessed at this church because it's a very spacious church, and so people can spread out pretty easily. And I understand that some churches are unable to do it as easily as us, but that's when you got to be a little bit creative. We were creative when the pandemic happened and we had to go online, so be creative in bringing your church back together and having church again. It's time to get us back together. And the reality is,
which I think the easiest way to do that is just have 2 services. Or 3 services.
Do whatever you got to do.
Whatever you have to do to separate and have church.
But I know most of these people their churches aren't being crammed filled with people, so it's not a problem. They're just having their little over precautious feelings. And guess what? I know a lot of it's perception. You want the perception that you're doing the right thing. You want the perception that you care. But The reality is, it's time to get back to church. And we've had a great Sunday night. We had a great Wednesday night. Youth has been pumping up and doing great.
Yeah.
What's your theories on the youth and how have they been feeling about everything?
Well, they're excited.
Yes,
because
they're all pumped.
we hit 20, I think, the first week back, and
Yeah.
we hit 17 this past week. So pretty consistent with our numbers for at least 2 weeks.
It's a little bit lower, but I mean,
It is lower than what we were
that's-
seeing before.
Well, it's
this happened,
exactly,
but it's what
it's
to
a little
expect.
higher, probably a little higher than I expected.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
same.
definitely.
We
Yeah,
were
it's-
expecting probably 10.
Yeah,
I was
10,
expecting
15.
like half that. Yeah. So, but the kids are excited. The kids
Yeah.
are wonderful. I mean, luckily the weather's been super nice on Wednesdays, so we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about being inside
Yeah, you
all
stick them
crammed
outside,
together.
you run around.
Yeah,
Playing
and-
games, all kinds of stuff.
And really, the first series that we planned on, like coming back, was the power of prayer. Because I couldn't imagine being a teenager right now in the world that we're living in, and them not understanding and not having a prayer life, not being in constant conversation with the Lord. I just think, for me, that's just so peaceful, especially during these days.
And here's the reality. Adults are confused about what's happening. And adults are going crazy
Yes.
about what's going on in the world. And adults are getting caught up in these little, minute things that have nothing to do with anything. And they're being distracted. They're causing division. They're hating one another. And so I know the teenagers
I was
are
gonna say
feeling it.
that's exactly
And I'd
what
also
we're
like to
thinking.
point out, I mean, at least in my girls group, they have literally, they want to journal now. They want me to teach them how to journal. They want journals. We went ahead and bought them journals as a church
Oh,
this
10.
week. Yeah, 15.
15.
So, I mean, it was awesome. The girls are excited. They want to dive deeper. And I think all that's going on is pushing them closer to the Lord right now, which I think is neat.
Which is, I think that's perfect.
It's
Exactly.
encouraging.
Because for the adults, it's pushing them farther from the church. I've never
Right.
seen anything like it for my life. More people that are causing division. And the people that are raising up issues. Because here's the reality. As a pastor, you get to know a little bit more about people. And so I'm watching people. I'm talking to people. I know how they're feeling. And then I watch them on Facebook say the complete opposite. They'll go on Facebook and say, I can't believe nobody wears a mask. And they come to the church. They don't have a mask on. They come to me and talk about how stupid it is that people are wearing masks. But then they go on Facebook and act like if you're not wearing a mask,
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It's the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. And
virtue signaling.
virtue signaling, yep. And 2 weeks ago, we were all worried about race. Now we're right back to race is over.
Coronavirus
we fixed
came
racism,
back.
and the coronavirus is back, and we're all worried about that. It's the most confusing time that we're living in.
But I think as
Ever.
Christians and as a church, this is the best opportunity to show that the world is chaotic, the world
Yep.
is lost, the world has no idea what
But
they're doing.
that's,
This is the result
This is-
of evil. This
Yep.
is the result of what the world does.
I think you said in your sermon, like, it wasn't this past week, maybe the week before. You said the past 2 weeks we've been in a front row seat of what a lost world looks like.
Amen. And if you're,
Because we are.
yes,
We're literally watching it happen unfold in front of our eyes. So the fact that we're shocked about it, we shouldn't be, because this is exactly what we know the lost world is.
And if
They're
you're
chaotic, they're
exhausted
looking
and if
for
you're
hope.
tired and if you're depressed, then you need to stop going into the world to find that satisfaction and stuff. Because here's the reality. Don't go into the world and hope that life's going to be great, because it's not. It's going to be chaotic, right? And don't ask God for strength, because God ain't going to give you strength to go and serve the world, right? We need to go to God in everything that we're doing. It's very important.
Which I think one thing that I've done specifically over the past, maybe not the entire pandemic, but over the past month, I've really thought consciously about trying to do it, is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is not look at my phone, social media.
Yep.
I try not to immediately go right to
It's hard to
Facebook
do.
or whatever. And the same thing when I go to bed. I try not to go to bed, looking at Facebook or social media for an hour before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So
Beneficial.
But it is beneficial because I spend that time now in prayer instead of looking at social media. So.
And during 9/11, when 9/11 hit, you guys were probably
I was only 1 year. I was
one
old.
and three.
Yeah.
1 and 3. So I was in 7th grade, and I remember.
Wow, you're old.
I know. I remember our churches getting filled after 9/11. All these people had so many questions, and they were concerned. They thought the world was going to end, and so they filled the churches, and they were looking for answers. And we had a mini revival in that moment, right, where people were back in our churches. For whatever reason, this was coincide. I've mentioned this before, but it coincided with the praise and worship movement, and so people thought, "Oh, it was the praise and worship that got him in there," or it was my teaching style instead of my preaching style. I started teaching them, and now they're starting to come in there. That wasn't the case at all. God brought them in there in that moment, and we messed up. And I tell people, whenever I do a revival at a church, I always tell the pastor that invites me to do that revival, make sure your church is ready. If your church ain't spiritually ready, please don't invite me to the church. There's no point in me coming. I will ruin your church if your church isn't spiritually ready for a revival. And I've seen it happen. I've come into churches and I've preached a 3-day revival or whatever the case is. I leave, everybody's uplifted. The week later, I hear that the whole place has completely been, disbanded and all these different things. There's a vision, all these things. Because if you're not spiritually ready for a revival, right, the devil's going to sit there and penetrate it, and it's going to be a terrible thing. So you have to be ready spiritually for revival. And I keep telling people, when this first happened and we were on this pandemic, and everybody was being nice and everybody was closing the church doors and we were online, Sundays were church. Like that on Facebook, nobody talked about anything else on Sundays but church. And people were watching 6 services. Some people were like, man, I've been just having church all day long. You don't see that anymore. Why? Because they weren't spiritually ready. We were having a mini revival online. People weren't spiritually ready for it. And and guess what? The devil came in and said, hey, I know you guys aren't spiritually ready. You guys are just playing this game. I'm going to completely, torment you. And we're living in that chaos right now. But I'm telling you, I still think the revival is going to start coming into the church, especially when people start realizing that this virus isn't as big of a deal as the media is making it. And when we come back into the church, we as a church have to be ready for that. And right now we're not. I can promise you there's no church that is ready for the revival that's getting ready to come inside of our churches. And so we really need to be getting on our knees. We need to be going to God's Word. We need to be getting spiritually ready for the flooding that's going to happen inside of our churches with people. I really, truly believe that. So
Good stuff.
I know.
Are you crying?
It breaks my heart, man. Because we pray for this. We pray for God to grow our churches. We pray for a revival. We pray for people to grow spiritually. But then when that happens, we aren't ready for it, right? We pray for God to send rain, but then it rains and we get mad. We're like, God, it's raining. I don't have an umbrella. I'm getting wet. I feel miserable.
Right.
We have to be ready. So when it does rain, our umbrella, we just go, umbrella's out. We're ready for this. Like, this is why, for us as a church, I know sometimes people will be like, Abe, I don't like the pace we're going as a church. I don't like how fast we're going. Abe, I don't like some of the people that are coming to the church. All these different things we hear as a growing church ourselves, as someone that's come in and we have revitalized this church. We hear those things. And I keep telling people, you have to be spiritually ready so that you're not taken back by these things. We're on our Wednesday night studies, we've been learning about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. And so we've been talking about all the things that they've been doing. And here's the thing. If you look in Daniel chapter 1, these guys were spiritually ready from a very early age. It didn't take them to King Nebuchadnezzar. It wasn't King Nebuchadnezzar saying you got to bow down for them to go, oh, we need to get our stuff together. We need to start witnessing to people. That's not when their faith was strong.
Because if that was the case then, it wouldn't. They would
have bowed down.
Yeah, it wouldn't turn out the way it did.
They would have bowed down. They would have been nervous. This is the second time when he's like, "No, are you serious? I'm going to play the music again, and y'all are going to bow down." They would have bowed down right then. But their faith was strong way before, from a very early age. Even in Daniel chapter 6, when Daniel, it says, he prayed 3 times a day. That wasn't something that he was just like, you know what? It's kind of a sucky situation. I'm here in Babylon. I'm not feeling very good. Everybody's attacking me. I'm just going to start praying 3 times a day. That was not the case. He was praying, it said 3 times a day, like he always did, like he previously did. And so he was in that routine so that when trouble hit, nothing changed for Daniel. He was like, I'm still going to pray 3 times a day because this is what I always do, right? And I guarantee his prayers weren't, oh, God, get me out of this situation. God, this wasn't how I dreamt it to be. Oh, God, you're not blessing me as quickly as I want to be. No, it was, God, you are good. God, you are the greatest. God, you are my Father. God, you are going to be my comforter. God, you're going to take care of me in any situation. And we have to have that type of mindset as the church. We need to be spiritually ready. We need to be spiritually disciplined. So no matter what happens out there in the world, we're completely ready. Is it okay if I preach a little bit? Woo-woo! And I think my camera's still going.
I think it is too. Woo! I think it's kind of cool you said Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because week 2 of our youth series we just launched this past Wednesday is on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So
that was on King Jehoshaphat.
That was last week.
Last week,
cool.
which went over very well.
That was a very good lesson because I didn't realize how long it was.
Yeah, it was
the story of King Jehoshaphat is a long story.
Well, yes. with your Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it's perfect for this time. We're living in Daniel chapter 3. Yeah. We're living in it.
But I'm excited for this one, especially because we're going to look at more of a prayer aspect of the story.
Oh.
So instead of...
Well, let me tell you something.
That's a cool story. I enjoy that story.
Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, in all their situations, they were alone. Right? Nobody stood up for them. Nobody was there. Nobody had their back. Nobody was going to be the mediator between them and what was going on. They were alone in every situation. Okay? Not spiritually they weren't alone. God was right there with them, but they were alone as far as the world. So do not expect the world to be behind you. Don't expect other Christians to be behind you, because sometimes I think we go, well, I'll stand up if there's somebody else that will stand up with me. Or I'll go witness that person if somebody comes with me. No.
We're seeing it right now in our
You're
world.
going to be alone.
We're seeing it right now in our world.
Yeah, and if you speak up, you're going to be alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
And so don't expect
gotta be
other
ready for
people
it.
to come with you. Don't expect other people to join you, because I'll have people go, well, hey, why don't you say something about it? Because I just said something. I'm like, listen, you want to say something? Say something.
Well,
right?
I think the other thing is us as Christians, we don't have to say anything. We don't have to prove anything to anybody about God. God's already done it.
All right. Well, wow. I'm going to stick with the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You're exactly right. We brought this up too. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't say anything. They stood up. They didn't say anything. They weren't trying to belittle the king. They weren't trying to...
They didn't attack him.
They didn't attack him. They weren't telling him, hey, king, you have to bow down to our God. We're not going to bow down. They didn't say anything. In fact, they even say to him in the very beginning when he said, is it true that you guys aren't bowing down? They said, we're actually not going to answer that question. We're not even going to answer that question. But we will tell you that we serve our God, and we're going to serve him, and we believe he'll deliver us from the fire. We believe that he'll deliver us from your hands. And even if he doesn't, we're still going to serve him. That's all they said. They didn't quote Bible scriptures to him. They didn't yell at him. They didn't do any of these things. And they were very calm.
Trying to tell him he's wrong and all that.
No, yeah, they just said, this is who we are.
But they set a good example, because as Christians we should do the same thing.
Have
we
to.
should never try to convict people on our own. We should lead by example, show people what it means to be a Christian
Yeah.
by how we act, how we carry ourselves, how we look, and but I think they set a good example of doing that.
Exactly. And Paul says in Ephesians,
that's what they did.
Yeah, and Paul says in Ephesians 4, you guys need to walk according to the call, which you've been called to. You need to walk according to it, worthy of it. You need to be walking worthy of that call. And sometimes we have to understand that we've been called to do so much in this life. Mainly, one of the things, this is what we're talking about in our series, we're called to serve, we're built to serve. And we have to walk into that serve. It's a hard thing to do, to serve people. But we have to care more about other people than ourselves. We have to worry more about other people learning about who Jesus is, the knowledge and the truth of Jesus Christ, as opposed to us feeling good that we're yelling at other people or holier than other people. We have to...
Because when we do that, when we see pastors do that, I think, especially what we're talking about, when we see people or pastors do that, it's like they're trying to play God and like do what God can do. They're trying to.
Y'all are taking my Wednesday night lesson. Y'all didn't even hear it.
No, we didn't. But I'm sorry. But it's true. Like I've seen so many people.
We don't convert people.
No, we don't do it. And you have to trust and believe that God can do it and the Holy Spirit can do it way more than we
I can't
can.
believe that's so awesome. Yeah, we don't. That was part of our thing. It's not our job to convert people. Sometimes we think that we are the ones that are supposed to be converting people. That's very wrong.
Well,
wrong.
people will take like you preach a sermon. People will take that. They come forward. They take it as I did it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of believing that God used you to do it.
Yeah.
But so they just take it the wrong way.
And that's the thing, and that's why I don't push for. I don't care who's at the church. I don't care who's not at the church. I don't care for anything. My job is to preach the word that God gave me that week. Right? I'm going to preach it faithfully. I don't care if anybody responds, because I used to have people come up to me right when we first started at Trinity, because we used to have a few weeks there where nobody would come up for anything, and people would be like, "I'm just so bummed. I thought this person would come up. I thought that was a great sermon. Even I thought they really." I'm like, listen. It doesn't matter if they come up or not. My job is to preach God's word, right? God will make that decision on working on their hearts and all that stuff. You look over at Moses, right? He was 40 years in that desert, and those Israelites were praying for God to free them from the grips of the Egyptians. Free us, we're in bondage, we're slaves. Free us. It took 40 years for God to soften the heart of Moses and to say, all right, now it's time to go and free your people, Moses. So you have to give God that opportunity. I also heard that it takes 7 times for somebody to hear the gospel. I'm talking about a real gospel salvation message in order for them to respond. So I'm not in any rush.
And we've said that before. Which is why it's so important to preach the gospel message in every sermon.
You have to be urgent.
If you want to do a series that involves whatever the series involves, it's okay, do that. But make sure there's a gospel message in it. Because if there's not a gospel message, people, like you said, people need to hear it 7 times at least.
Which is part of the problem with this, the teaching, the theology teaching style, which is you're teaching a certain thing. You're in 2 chapters for a Sunday morning sermon. When you have visitors there, you have people there that are not non-believers. Hopefully, most of the times not, because people don't stay. But you're preaching this message, and you're trying to give a background story of insert person or insert Bible person. And the next thing you know, you couldn't turn it to a gospel message. You couldn't. You had no opportunity for salvation. You didn't even tie in Jesus Christ to the thing, and people are like nobody can respond to it.
Yep.
You have to give the gospel message so that people can respond.
Yep. And I feel like I'll go back to kind of what we said about people coming forward. I feel like I see people, pastors, they think that if people don't come forward right then, come to the altar or whatever right then, that they can't be saved.
Yes.
They're like, you have to come forward on a Sunday. You have to do it here,
No.
and you have to do it in front of me. You have to pray with me. But there they go. They go right back to playing God.
And I've heard that.
You can because there's a guy here that every time he prays, he always will say whether it's here, whether it's in their car on the way home, whether it's when they get home, just let them be saved.
Let me say
Because that's the goal. Forget where it's at.
Exactly. There was a pastor that was like, I met a pastor once. He was teaching kids, and he was saying, what the hardest thing is? I can't get kids to come back to church so they can come down the aisle. I said, what are you talking about, man? He's like, they want to make a decision, but they won't come to church and come down the aisle. And I'm like, listen, you're completely way off, brother. There's nothing special about that aisle. There's nothing special about that. There's nothing special about that baptism water. That baptism water, it's just, for us, it's found with water. I know where it comes from. It's nasty, and most times there's bugs crawling in there.
It's never, I was gonna say,
It's always really hot or super cold.
Yeah, it's either hot or super cold. It's just real water, buddy. And I don't put a blessing over it, or I don't transform it into some magical thing. It's water, and it's a symbolism to you dying to your old self and coming up anew. But listen, we as a church have been so blessed here at we're a Southern Baptist church. We're part of the Southern Baptist Convention, and the Southern Baptists keep declining and declining. And we're getting ready to wrap up our fiscal year here this Sunday, and
it's encouraging because every church is going down and we're going up.
We went from last year's numbers being 3 baptisms for the whole year, 3 to 22. We went, which is we haven't had 22 baptisms at this church since 2001. We went from 33 members last year that came forward to we had 55 this year, so 88 totals since we've been here since January 2019. I mean, literally, the numbers are unbelievable. We went from 20 people in attendance. I think our highest was 153. We're doing some amazing things here at this church, and it's been such a blessing. And that's what happens when you let God lead and you get out of the way. You let God take over, and He'll do amazing, amazing things for you.
We're seeing it.
And we're seeing it. We're living proof of it. So we're going to get off here. I want to take a quick break. And I need to come in back and talk about VBS.
We're never going to get
I don't know why. God doesn't want me talking about it for some reason. But we're going to get back to it in our second half, hopefully. So stay tuned. Preaching Young. All right. Welcome to part 2 of episode 15. Listen, I'm excited. We're almost to episode 20, and we have a big surprise for episode 20. One of our biggest fans will be joining us, hopefully, on episode 20. So make sure you hang in there for how many more episodes, Brittany?
5.
Wow, look at that math.
4, actually.
Technically 4.
Yeah.
Because this will be 15,
But did you see how fast I caught that? I was horrible at math to all our listeners. But now, I'm amazing at math.
Anyway.
let's talk about Vacation Bible School.
I'm
We'll go
so
ahead
glad
straight
we're gonna
right
talk
into
about
it. A disclaimer before we get into this. We're not going to try to offend anybody. We're not trying to defend anybody. We're not trying to...
Never our goal.
We're not trying to make anybody upset. We're trying to give you a biblical perspective about VBS. We're trying to open up your eyes to what VBS could be. And, maybe we could
Open
do
my eyes so I can see.
Not the right words. Very
I'm going to give you my background with VBS as a Christian and as a person. You see how I said person, not human today?
It's because we pick on you for saying
You
human,
just said-
because he
you
leaves the
said
H
it.
out of human. Anyway, go ahead.
You.
Give us your background on VBS. I want to hear what you're
I grew up with VBS. I love VBS. You walk into there, and they always sing the same songs. Shine, Jesus, shine.
Brady's favorite hymn.
And anyway, you do the flag
She's grinning
thing,
ear to
you do
ear,
the thing.
just because you
You
said
got
that.
the church is decorated. You got snacks. You get fun games. It is a lot of fun for 1 week. It is a lot of fun. Growing up, we used to have kids that would hit every single one in our community. So they'd hit ours on one week, they'd hit the next church on the next week, they'd hit the next church on the next week. And for parents, their kids were getting fed, their kids were being babysitted, and it was a wonderful opportunity for a lot of these kids.
You say babysitted? It's babysat.
I didn't say babysitted, I said babysit.
No, you didn't.
Can we rewind that?
Someone rewind the tapes.
Anyway, my point is, this is the reality of VBS. VBS was it was fun for a week. They were always very pushy on salvations, right? On the second day, they would start going, all right. They'd say, do you believe in Jesus Christ? Kids would be like, yeah. Have you ever been baptized? All the kids say, no. They say, all right, well, listen. Do you want to get to heaven? All the kids say, of course. Why wouldn't I want to go to heaven? Do you want to go to hell? No, hell's bad. Okay, then you need Jesus. Okay, awesome. They say, in order to have Jesus, you got to get baptized. And you got to do it on a Sunday morning for us. All right, so go tell your parents tonight that you're going to get baptized on Sunday. Then when all the kids would come on Sunday, and they get baptized at a young age. And then later on, and we're seeing the results of this today. We're seeing the results of them going, I got baptized at VBS. I have zilch to do with the church. I don't know anything about the Bible, but I'm covered because I was baptized at VBS. And this is where I really start to hate VBS.
That's a very good backstory on VBS. You covered about everything. Snack time.
I hate it, man. I love VBS for a lot of reasons. I also hate it for a lot of reasons, and we'll go through those. Number one, I hate the fact that it's a 1 week thing of the summer. If I had my way, I would have it. I mean, every week should be VBS. Not for a full week. It's a lot of work for a lot of people. But every Wednesday night should be a VBS style.
Just mentality.
Yeah, just with the mentality.
Yeah.
We want to have games. We want to have snacks. We want to sit there and pour into the kids. We want to teach them fun lessons that they'll remember. If you did it more than a week, if you did it once a day, once a day for 8 weeks, they're going to get more out of it.
Consistency.
Yeah, you want to be but I would like to see that all year round. We should be pouring into our kids the same way we do for VBS. And I'm talking about the whole church. The whole church should be pouring into our kids the same way our churches do on VBS week.
Well, you're right. We
love our kids for VBS week.
And people rally around VBS.
And there are people who do not serve in the church ever who will serve on VBS week.
Serve a lot on VBS week.
But yet we cannot get them to serve any other time. I would rather see them serve with the kids all year round. I'd rather see us pour into our kids all year round. I'd rather see church be a thing that's focused on our kids all year round and not just VBS and then throw them back into their little room when
once VBS is over, we fall right back into the same habit where we just sit there, throw them in a room.
Don't talk to them, don't care about them.
Give them some snacks and carry on with their life. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry about that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And for me, instead of us pushing for salvations, right? Because these kids are coming from broken homes, and instead of manipulating them into making a false salvation.
Because that's what it is. It's however you want to chop it up. By it's almost like trickery. Kind of.
Do you want to go to heaven? Yes.
Of course the kid's going to say that.
Kid's going to say yes. I don't care who you say.
Yeah, the kid's going to say yes.
So explain. So I would rather that you do this as a church. I'd rather you say, you know what? Instead of a salvation, I would rather you say, hey, we want to see you in church on Sunday. Yeah. We want you to invite your parents to church. We want to call your parents and not say, hey, we just got your kid we're going to be baptizing your kid, and the parents like, I don't know why he got baptized last year at the other church. We want to say, no, we want you to be at church. Right. We want you here.
Because the reality, when we do the first part, when we say, hey, do you want to get saved? They scream yes. We're doing the same thing. We're playing God again.
Every church, and I'm talking about every church, can run 100 kids for the week of VBS, but yet we cannot get 5 kids there on Sunday. And the Sunday after VBS is still one of the lowest Sundays for kids, even though we just had VBS. Why is that? Because they don't come for the church. They come for the games and the snacks, and they're going to get attention, and they're going to be babysit for a week.
That would be babysat.
That would be babysatted.
Yeah.
Babysitted.
Oh my goodness.
So do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is the
Never
reality.
claimed we were grammar experts.
But this is the thing. This is one of those traditions in churches that has to be relooked at. It has to be, revamped. It has to be. I love VBS with all my heart. I think it's a lot of fun. Last year's VBS here at Trinity was the most fun I've had in a long time. The kids were great. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of kids. But guess what? On Sunday they weren't there. The next Sunday they weren't there. The next Sunday they weren't there.
Which I think. Well, we're not trying to bash VBS, say don't do VBS, but there's a different way to do. I feel like we need to change the way we do it.
Well, we do that with everything. We don't only look at VBS that way.
we
We
do this
look
with
at
everything.
other events that we have and we say, oh, did we really see people come from that event to
Right.
church in the coming weeks afterwards? No.
Right.
Okay, what can we do next year if we do have this event to make sure we do get people?
And I'll give you an example. Because when I first started at Trinity, a lot of people were saying, Abe, if you want to get a lot of people here at the church, you got to kiss a pig. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, if it's real big, Abe. Back in the 90s, we used to get the pastor to kiss the pig. We'd have tons of people show up for that. I'm like, okay, but did they stay? Right? Because you guys, they didn't stay. And this is what happens when you do something that's a gimmick, right? When you have a kiss a pig situation where people come to see a pastor kiss a pig, because I'd go and see a pastor. I'd love to see half of our pastors kiss a pig. But you go and you see the piss, and then they go, we're done. I don't need to see it anymore. I'm good. Or they go, we want to see you kiss something every Sunday. Kiss a cow the next week, right? Climb. You and the wife got to be on top of the roof, and we'll raise money. Or you got to get your hair shaved off. These are all gimmicks they may get them there for that Sunday, but you got to do it every time. Because as soon as you start going, all right, now I'm actually going to preach the gospel. They're like, we don't want the gospel. We want the pig being kissed. Am I right?
That's true.
Yeah.
And this is how we have turned VBS into, right? And VBS is a huge thing for a lot of churches.
The idea behind VBS is a good concept.
Yes,
It is a very good concept. Because we love church camp, and church camp the
Same
idea
thing.
of church camp is fantastic, but every year we fall victim into going right back the way we were the week after church
The
camp.
difference between church camp, though, is the kids that are already going to church get to go to camp.
That's true.
And then they come right back to church.
That's true.
Then there's other issues getting off that church high that we need to address. Well, actually, we should talk about that one.
It's a good topic too.
But with VBS, we literally are bringing in kids that have nothing to do with the church. Most of them don't even know what the church is. They come in, we give them a week of VBS, and then we don't do anything. Really, our VBS should be focused on nothing else but getting them to come to church, and showing them the importance of church, showing them what church is.
Push.
That's really what it should be, so that when they come to church, they can start bringing their families to church, and they can start hearing that message of the gospel, not in a way that the kids can understand, which is, heaven's good, hell's bad, and if you want to go to heaven, you gotta get baptized. That's not the kind of message that they need. They need to be hearing the gospel message. They need to be learning about Jesus Christ, the knowledge and the truth of it.
Like you said at the beginning of when we started talking about VBS, we're seeing the results of that.
Yes.
Of those kids that grew up in VBS that were taught hey, you say you just do this, say this, you're saved, done. We're seeing the results of it because we work with youth now. We're seeing kids that have only came to church as a kid and went to VBS, and now are growing up and they're like, wait a minute.
I didn't know this.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. I didn't understand this.
And even we're seeing it as adults. You see adults do the same thing.
Yeah. It breaks my heart. And as much as I love VBS, I want us to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons, that we're focused on doing it. If you don't do it for the right reasons anyway, if you're doing it just for the traditional perspective or to show off to everybody, because every church does this. We had 150 kids on our VBS. Oh, that's great. Then you realize that 50 of those were adults, or 75 of those people were adults, and so they count those.
But then you look at the church down the street, and they have
152. They had two, and you're like, where do all these kids come from? Oh, they're going to eat church. Then you go, well, good, they're hearing the message. Well, really, are they? They're literally making salvations every week. They're making it. They're coming forward.
Which is, honestly, it's almost a disservice as a church, because you're teaching kids that they can just, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They don't have to ask for forgiveness, they just get saved every week.
Yes.
It's a weird concept that we fall into.
We as Christians pour all of the years of Christianity and we put it in a bubble and we give it to them in a week.
Yep.
And we expect them to understand it and then respond to it and then move on.
We're talking kids.
Yeah, we're talking kids, so we need to really start to reevaluate how we're doing VBS. We reevaluate everything else. I mean, most churches, you have to have membership classes to become members. You have to go through a baptism class to get baptized. But when it comes to our kids, we still do VBS the same way, and we have to start looking at it in a different perspective. We have to an extent. And a big part of that's going to be focus on understanding what church is and the importance of going to church.
Which hopefully, I think, with this pandemic kind of
Wrong.
coming to an end, I think we could use this as an opportunity to be like, hey, reevaluate VBS.
Wrong.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna tell you what. We should as a church. We should.
Thank you. That's my point.
Nobody is.
That's true. Nobody will. I'm just saying.
Nobody is, because we went from because I don't know where this even came out. All of a sudden it was, whoa, we need to do a big push for virtual VBS. I said, oh goodness, what would that even look like? I don't even know what virtual VBS looks like. So I'm trying to watch some of these virtual VBS. You got some virtual VBS is just a guy and a camera, and he's just reading like a VBS lesson to the camera. He's like, there's a kid named David. And so those are like, I'm like, are kids really paying attention to that? Yeah, you got them, coming up with little kits and crafts and they're handing it to the kids. That's wonderful. But here's the thing. Should we be doing that just for VBS week? Why can't we make kits and biblical things for kids all year around? Why don't we have, because here's the thing. Most of these pastors are preaching with their phones on Sunday mornings. It's bad quality. Most times it's sideways because can't figure out how to do the Facebook Live, and they've been doing it for 3 months. And then they sit there and they go, all right, let's do a virtual VBS. And the virtual VBS, we're actually going to try to invest in a camera, and then we're going to have a good little quality thing for the week of VBS, and then the next Sunday they go back to their stupid phones again. And I'm thinking, how does this make any sense? Why not invest in a virtual thing for the kids every week? If you think that's how you're going to reach kids, do it every week.
Commit to it.
Commit to it.
Yep.
If you're actually caring about the quality of your camera, care about it on Sundays when you're actually preaching to adults, drives me nuts.
Sure, I agree.
I feel like I'm getting yelled at right now, and I'm not even
I
listening.
apologize.
I don't know why.
It's a very touchy subject for
It
it
is,
because,
and I think
because
we've
we're
got
doing
to
it for
be-
perception.
That's true.
We're all doing it for perception.
That's true.
We want to have the most kids on a VBS. We want to say we had the most salvations on a VBS. We want all these things, and we're doing it for the wrong reasons. And we see the results of it. And I guess this is why it upsets me the most, because as a growing church, we are seeing the results of it.
Yeah.
We're having to deal with the effects of people coming into the church going, I was here during VBS, got nothing out of it. Right? Don't remember anything from it. Have never been back to church. I was never told that was a thing.
Right.
And then we're sitting there because
We have to go backwards a step to move
you
forward.
got to look at it. You
Yeah.
got to reevaluate everything. And VBS is one of those things that it's just been there. It's how we've done it every year. And there's nothing wrong with having a week focused to children. I think that is great. What you do during that week is also great. I think having snacks is awesome. I love snacks. That was my favorite part of VBS. I love playing the
I
games.
feel like the VBS,
That was
the
my-
snacks at VBS were like 10 times better than
They are. Why
I don't
is
know
that?
why. I don't know
Oh,
why.
and last year our church, they had the walking taco. Was that what they call it? The walking tacos?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It was delicious.
All I'm saying is that's chili that goes on there, right?
It's like taco meat. It's just taco meat.
Yeah, it's like a.
Essentially a walking.
It's Fritos.
How do you not know
You
what
open up a
taco- what
Frito
taco is?
I feel like
bag.
I've had it
It's
before.
Frito bag.
It's a taco in a
Yeah, it's
Frito
a taco
bag.
in a Frito bag instead of the taco hard shell. So
Because
it's
they're
Fritos.
corn chips.
Yeah,
The corn tortilla chips. So it's just like you're substituting the shell for the chips.
It was awesome.
It's a great idea.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. VBS is an awesome thing, and it's
And
awesome.
people have good ideas for VBS.
People have good ideas. People are creative. People are outgoing. People are excited. People get to work with kids. Those are great things.
All we're saying
You
is
could still do that. You could do VBS as a series and
Exactly.
do it each Wednesday night, different thing each Wednesday, and you could have walking tacos or a snack or something like that for your kids that are at your church.
Is there an echo in here? That's what I'm saying.
I feel like
Oh
it's-
yeah, I know.
Well, you're exactly right. We should be doing that
That's true.
all summer. We
That's
need to
all we're
say, maybe we should do it. Maybe we should start it.
Uh,
Next year we should just do, hey, because here's the thing. What do we do, about 6-7 days of it?
Yeah.
Instead of doing it in 1 week, it's every Wednesday or every Monday or every
For
Sunday
the
or every
summer.
Saturday
For 8 weeks.
for 8 weeks or 6 weeks, we're going to have a VBS style thing. And that way these kids are coming here every week and they're starting to see the thing, not just for 1 week, not for a few days. They're seeing it every day and they're getting something out of it every day. If we invest in our kids the way we invest in VBS, I mean, churches all have budgets for VBS for 1 week. But then it's bigger than our budget for a full year with our
It
kids.
is, yep.
Or, yeah, it's, yeah.
At some point, we got to reevaluate all these things and look at what we're doing it, why we're doing it for. If it's just for tradition, you're doing it for the wrong reason. And if this,
Because traditions don't matter.
and if you think that this is your outreach for the year, then you're sadly mistaken.
I knew that was coming.
This is a portion of that outreach, but this is it's a blip on the
radar.
You got to be doing outreach for everything else. Gosh, but I love you guys. I don't want to upset anybody or offend anybody. If you're doing VBS, do it. If you did a virtual VBS, good job. Congratulations. Keep doing it. Do it again. Come up with some kits and give it to the kids again. See how that impacts them.
I like how you said kits, it's skits.
Kits. They're kits. You send home a kit.
Oh, here I am thinking you're saying skits wrong. Okay, makes sense.
Ouch. Things I hate.
I'm glad we got to talk about VBS.
Oh,
Me too. I appreciate it. Things I hate. Here's the thing I hate the most. If you go, Frankfurt just came out, which is our state capital, state government. They go, if you were at Myrtle Beach or Florida,
I did see this.
we want you to quarantine yourself for 14 days because those are coronavirus hotspots. And but yet, miraculously, even though we've been having these protests for 2 weeks with thousands, I'm talking tens of thousands of people, hand in hand,
Cities across the country.
together, marching. Not one of them has caught the virus. Not one
Ironic,
protester.
isn't it weird?
It's amazing. And not one protester has to quarantine for 14 days. And not one protester had to wear a mask, even though most of them were wearing masks to cover up their looting and rioting.
Identities.
But this is the reality that we're living in right now, which is, and what confused me is, I don't know how we got back to the virus.
I don't either.
The virus was over.
I was gonna say it came out that masks don't work. It can't be spread. It can be
Whoa!
spread symptomatically, just like
Say this
everything
again.
else.
You're right. I didn't
Remember
think
this?
about
They
that.
said
I didn't
this.
think about this.
They
They
said
did say this.
So everybody.
Asymptomatics don't spread it. Masks don't work. And then they're like, then
Dr. Fauci. I
then
think.
the race started going. All this race war started happening.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was back to, oh no. You need to wear a mask. And if you want to have school, your kids need to wear a mask for eight hours a day. How's
Yeah,
that?
This
good
whole
luck.
This school thing is weird to me because listen, we work with youth, but even youth would be hard to keep. Like I can't imagine teenagers. Trying to force a teenager to keep a mask on all day. Do you have kids? Could you imagine trying to keep them a mask on all day?
It ain't happening.
Yeah, it's not happening.
It ain't happening. I love
You
my
can't
kids.
keep.
My
You
kids are
cannot
good
keep.
kids.
You cannot
It
keep
ain't happening.
kids' shoes on.
They're gonna hit each other. They're gonna choke each other. It's gonna be
Yeah,
bad.
we used to
It
wear
won't
hair
work.
ties to school in our hair, and guess what the boys would do? Take them out and then use them as
Pretty funny.
slingshots.
Here's the thing that you have to understand, and I don't want to offend anybody for this either, but me, Andrew, and Brittany have not stopped seeing each other since this pandemic.
Yep.
We've not.
Every week.
We've had these podcasts this close since March.
Yeah.
Whenever we launched it,
So what are we doing? What are we talking about?
and we're all doing our own thing throughout the week.
Abercrombie does not own a mask. I've not put a mask on. It would mess up my beard and my hair. I'm just kidding, church folk. Don't get upset with me. So anyway,
But it's true. I hate it as well.
it's a weird world we're living in.
It's very real world. We're also living in a
Cancel generation.
Cancel culture is what we
Cancel
call
culture,
it.
that's
It's
what
a
we call it.
culture.
Whatever. I just
People
know
are getting
canceled.
only certain people are getting canceled. Jimmy Kimmel, who says
I
the
saw that. I
N-word,
saw that.
who dressed as Karl Malone, who's a black man dressed in black to be him.
but like it was
He comes in, but he comes in and he apologizes. He also was the host of a Man Show, which was a very inappropriate show that was belittling to women. And he comes on there, apologizes. They're like,
Okay, Jimmy.
it's okay if it's Jimmy Kimmel, but anyone else, we're going to destroy. If it was a conservative, whoop, you would be out of a job. The same with Howard Stern. Howard Stern used to have one of the most raunchiest shows on ever, right?
It was.
It was inappropriate. He's a shock jock. That was his thing. He was a shock jock radio host. And but he's on The Voice. He's like one of the judges for one.
No, it was America's Got Talent. He's the
America's Got
guy with
Talent.
black
Yeah,
black
the
curly
white
hair.
This is the thing that's funny about it.
Black curly hair.
This is funny about it. She doesn't know him from that. She knows him from America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Before America's Got Talent, he was raunchy. He
He had a terrible. His show was awful.
his show was awful. He also wore blackface and said the N-word. But he got on America's Got Talent,
People love him.
became friends
Because
with
it's a
celebrities,
family-friend show.
and all of a sudden, like,
But
he
that's the
apologizes,
thing.
he's okay.
We should never look at people's past and then judge them for that stuff. If you're gonna go off one person, then you can't do it to the other.
And this is the reality. This is the thing about, because now we're doing this with Bubba Wallace, and I don't like Bubba Wallace as a race car driver. I don't know him personally. He's probably a wonderful, cool guy. I don't know. He plays the drums, which is awesome. Never met him. But you know, I used to not like him as a race car driver because he wasn't very good. He wasn't a good driver.
Before all this happened, he was never a very.
Wasn't a good driver. He was, but he's very cocky, I guess would be the word.
He looks like a cocky guy.
But then all this hoax stuff happens, and man, people start getting upset. They want him fired. He didn't even see the thing, so it's not really his fault. But where he went wrong was he's getting on all these news channels and he's talking
Still
talking about it, and still calling it a noose. It's not a noose. It was a slip knot. You know, if it was a noose, as soon as you touched it, it would wrap around your hand.
Yeah, it would tighten.
It doesn't do that, and
Yeah,
it's been there for months. And I'm telling you, man, I've heard all arguments, and my own perspective is NASCAR should get on the television and say, we made a mistake. We overreacted because of everything that's been going on. We were highly sensitive because we just banned the Confederate flag, and we thought that our fans,
As a result,
would probably pull something like this, and we thought this was the thing that they did. But guess what? Me and Andrew've been to it. We went to Kentucky Speedway last summer, and it was my first NASCAR race I've ever been to. It's in Kentucky, and so I was a little bit weary. I had a Kentucky Speedway shirt on. We went, and I can promise you, I've never seen a more diverse crowd in Kentucky in my entire life. I've never seen more people that were loving, and they were like, hey, you have a NASCAR shirt on? You're one of us. We love you. It was the most awesome experience. Nobody cared where everybody, whoever you were sitting by, they just loved you.
Yeah, they don't care.
They're like, we're here to have a good time. And then at the end of the race, Kyle Busch, nobody likes Kyle Busch, not because he's white or black, just because he's also a cocky driver.
His persona.
Yeah. So it was between him and Kurt, his brother, and the entire people, everybody there, 10,000 people. Well, how many people? There's like
There's probably
30,000.
Probably somewhere on there.
Everybody
That's
is
in attendance in real life.
yeah.
But
Everybody was on the same. Everybody was cheering for Kurt to beat Kyle. And we were all in together, and then we all walked away and went to our cars. And everybody
Kurt the
was
champion.
Kurt the champion. Everybody was laughing. Everybody was like, "Wasn't that an awesome race?"
it is cool because the speedways are huge, so you don't necessarily park right next to the gate.
No.
So there's trolleys you walk.
And people
big,
are
big
just having
groups.
a good time.
Nobody's fighting.
Nobody cared what you looked like, what you were wearing, who you were, what race you had, what sexual gender you were. Nobody cared.
Sure,
we
yeah.
were all having a good time. Even with their shirts things, it was like, even if they didn't like Kyle Busch, nobody was yelling at the Kyle Busch guy or the kid wearing the Kyle Busch shirt. We were all just having a good. It was the most fun-loving, free, spirited thing I've ever been to in my life. And it was a NASCAR race, and I kept thinking, everybody keeps saying these people are rednecks. We were all just having a good time, and I didn't feel pressured to be drinking. Right? Nobody was sitting there going, you got to have a beer or anything. It was a family-friendly, fun environment that I was hoping to go to this year, but we got canceled. Fans aren't allowed to go. But I thought to myself, when I first heard that there was a noose in the garage, I said, no, not NASCAR. Couldn't be a NASCAR fan because I know NASCAR fans. And I'm not talking about the comment section of NASCAR because the comment section of NASCAR, they're kind of weird. But I'm talking about, I've seen NASCAR fans, and they're very kind, loving people. They just want to get. They're hard. I tell you what it is. They're hard-working people who work all the time.
Yep.
They save up their money to go to NASCAR races because they just want to get away from reality of life. And this is why I hate sports right now.
It's a fun experience.
This is why I hate sports right now. Because this is why we do sports anyway. Sports was created. It's an entertainment. That's why it's considered an entertainment. This is why we watch movies. This is why we do all these things. We want to get away from our reality of working and grinding all the time. And we want to go and spend our money on a basketball game. I mean, people spend their vacation time doing this.
Yeah,
and be entertained and go for. This is why I go. This is why I used to love going to concerts because I was like, for 2 hours, I don't have to think about anything.
Yep.
But just this concert, just listen to good music, be around good people, like-minded people. And now when you add politics into it, and you add the things that we are trying to escape from, and you add that into our entertainment, we hate it. I haven't seen a NASCAR race for 2 months because they started getting into politics and stuff. I said I listen about politics all day long. I want to watch a NASCAR race and lay on the couch and not think about politics.
On our trip to Gatlinburg, me and Brady went to a museum. It was a history museum, so it had nothing to do with politics or anything. But at the very end of this museum, there was a sign by there was a quote from a guy named Charles Barkley. Now, I know nothing about Charles Barkley.
You know Charles Barkley?
I know him, but I don't know his
love
political
Charles
views.
Barkley.
He's a good guy. I don't know his political views. I don't know anything about Charles Barkley. But this quote on the sign said, "Just because I can dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kid."
Oh yeah.
And
he
to
got
me,
a lot of flack for that. Though.
He did. And just because, to me, I think he hit the nail on the head. Because we put
Like,
sports
oh,
people
yeah,
on
these
pedestals
people are
and
so
think for some
cool.
reason
And we want them to
because-
be our role
Be like
models
him,
or something.
yeah.
No. We just want them to entertain us.
Yeah. So, and for some, I don't know when it happened, but it could have been happening forever. I don't know. But for some reason, we've just flipped the switch and taking their political views and their religious views and everything to heart, as if they're like this major king or something.
And I'll give you this, and we'll wrap it up. But we are in a society that reports first and asks questions later. We want to get that story out there, and this is why I hated this NASCAR story so much. Is because in my head I go, if I find a noose in the garage, my first question is, how did it get there? Who put it there? As just a normal person, just my head, I would
That's the
say,
question.
if there was a noose in the church, I'd go, well, how'd that get there? Let me do my own little investigation, just real quick. I can do it in 5 minutes. Did I put it there? No. Let me call Andrew. Did Andrew put it there? No. Let me call my trustee. Did my trustee put it there? Oh, it's been there for 3 months? Okay, sorry, trustee. I didn't realize you tied that there. Was there a reason you tied it there? Oh, I was doing it to pull down the garage door. Oh, cool. That makes perfect sense. I don't really like that it's a noose. Can we take it down? Oh, okay, cool. We can take it down. Let's take it down. Let's find another way to put up a garage door thing. That would be my investigation. I could have it done in 5 minutes. But instead, and NASCAR did the right thing because they're like, I ain't messing with this thing. I'm going to call the FBI.
They didn't just go
Because
to
if
like
NASCAR
local
did
police.
this, if NASCAR did this own investigation themselves, everybody be going, well, NASCAR set it up, but
Yeah.
they did the right thing, and so
They went to the big dogs.
But again, they could have asked somebody in the garage, like whoever. There's probably a garage director or operations guy. They could have probably answered the question in 5 minutes.
Right.
It's why the FBI didn't take very long to find out their answer, because they go, we'll just call the
Took
guy
like a day,
that
I
runs the
think.
thing. Yeah, we'll call the guy that runs the thing, and he can tell us, and we can look on video and see it. So it just blows my mind that that's the reality that we live in, but that's
But like we
the
said
world
earlier,
we
that's
live
the
in.
world we
Report
live in.
first, ask questions later, and I actually just heard an interview about this guy who's been researching fake hoaxes, right? Swastikas on buildings, all these things, and it ends up being, majority of the time, I think it's like 50 to 60% of the time, it's actually fake. So chalk this up as another fake. It was actually not even fake. It was a misunderstanding, and that's all they had to say.
Yep.
This is a misunderstanding.
But
and to anybody
NASCAR would solve all their issues just coming out with a simple apology, because that doesn't offend anyone on either side. It's
and
just-
if anybody's offended by our BBS comments today, just know that this was a mistake. You know like that? You think that's funny?
Brady didn't laugh. She was happy.
Listen, we are excited. Thank you for joining us for our 15th episode. We finally have the whole thing on video, so for those that have been faithfully watching us on YouTube, thank you for your support. Like it, share it, and subscribe.
Well, you can do that on YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Hit us
We
with the
appreciate
outro.
it. My name is Abe Crozier, pastor here at Trinity Center Baptist.
Andrew Baker.
And I'm Brittany Foreman.
And this is Preaching Young. Preaching Young.
Hey guys, what's up? We thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have any questions, you can email us at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com. Hope to see you next time.